Welcome to the Shorten Anime channel. Today we'll dive into the latest episode of The Great Ruler. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe to support the channel. The Great Ruler Season 1, Episode 20. Because of Liu Mubai and Mu Chen, the evaluation of the results had become somewhat amusing. The soul essences that they pulled out were far too powerful for the many students. Moreover, whether it was Liu Mubai's 2 soul essence or Mu Chen's 5 soul essence, it was simply impossible. Furthermore, the latter did not even try to care when he made up the excuse. He was basically telling everybody that he was cheating. However, many of the people knew that Mu Chen was deliberately doing this against Liu Mubai. This is because it was unclear how Liu Mubai obtained the 2 soul essences. The recording staff member also stopped and stared helplessly at the scene. Then he turned over to look at Teacher Mo and Teacher Shi. "The 2 of you, stop playing around now." Teacher Mo helplessly shook his head. Then he became straight-faced. He waved his hand and said, "Put your items away. This training was to hone your real combat abilities. It was not done so you can show off. Both of you shouldn't get the orders reversed." Mu Chen gave off an indifferent smile. He never expected that the 5 soul essences would have any effect in the first place. Moreover, the soul essences weren't hunted by him. He found them inside Juetu's mustard seed bracelet. He only did this because he didn't like Liu Mubai going against him and wanted to make him feel disgusted. Liu Mubai's face was a little pale. It was obvious from Teacher Mo's words that he did not believe that Liu Mubai had hunted the soul essence himself personally. Although that was true, he was still played around by Mu Chen. The results this time, Mu Chen and Liu Mubai's team are both tied for first. Hearing Teacher Mo's judgment, the camp instantly became lively. It was evident that Teacher Mo and the others did not want to dwell on this matter. For the first place winners, the top 3 rewards were the same. Therefore, they were too lazy to pull off the 2 thorns, Liu Mubai and Mu Chen. But this made it apparent that Teacher Mo did not believe that the soul essences they pulled out in the end were hunted by Liu Mubai or Mu Chen personally. A few students glanced at each other. They pondered for a moment and decided to judge who the true number 1 was. After excluding the unreliable soul essences, it was evident that the Conflagration Ape King had the most worth. Not only did Mo Ling said and the others that Mu Chen had lured away the Conflagration Ape King, but even Teacher Mo said that he personally witnessed it. Therefore, the Conflagration Ape King's soul essence was definitely related to Mu Chen. And Mu Chen, who held this soul essence, naturally defeated Liu Mubai. When Liu Mubai heard the surrounding uproar, his eyes turned grim. He knew what everybody was thinking about. Not only was he suppressed by Mu Chen, he was even disgraced. Tang Qian'er's mood was elevated. Although Mu Chen and Liu Mubai were tied this time, many students knew who the true number 1 was. Thus, the evaluation of the results came to an end. Mu Chen and Liu Mubai's team were tied for number 1. Mo Ling's team made it to number 2, and the 3rd place was achieved by West Branch's Chen Tong's team. As they saw the results, those that failed let out a regretful sigh. "Since the results have come out, we should give out the rewards as well." Teacher Mo smiled. He flicked his finger, and numerous lights passed through his hand as it went towards Mu Chen and the others. It peacefully landed within their hands. Mu Chen stared at his hand as the light faded away. It revealed a tiny and exquisite jaded box. He gently opened the box and saw a fingernail-sized jaded blue elixir quietly lying within it. A powerful spiritual energy fluctuation slowly emitted out from it. This fluctuation was many times stronger than the jaded essence fruit. After all, this elixir could only be formed after refining a variety of spiritual medicines together, and the medical effects would complement with each other. Therefore, it was naturally better than the jaded essence fruit. The surrounding crowd stared at the accumulation elixir within Mu Chen and the other's hand and had jealous expressions. It was said that the accumulation elixir could speed up the time to reach the spiritual rotation stage. Since this training session is over, we will head back to the Northern Spiritual Academy. In addition, we will have a month of vacation time. You can decide whether or not you want to head back home or stay within the academy. Teacher Mo waved his hand and smiled. When the young boys and girls heard that there would be a month of vacation, they instantly became excited. They were at the Northern Spiritual Academy for so long and were getting slightly homesick. Among the joyful atmosphere in the camp, the students began to pack up the camp and reunited with the main force. They left according to the time and headed leisurely back to the Northern Spiritual Academy. After returning to the Northern Spiritual Academy, Mu Chen could finally relax and did not have to be composed. The Northern Spiritual Academy was considered an extremely safe place within the Northern Spiritual realm. Even with their strength, the Liu territory did not dare to cause trouble within the Northern Spiritual Academy's grounds. He completely rested for a day in order to allow him to gradually stop being on guard. Then he began to prepare for his trip back to the Mu territory. But before heading back to the Mu territory, Mu Chen went to find Su Ling. He first handed that guy a jaded essence fruit and asked the elated guy to help him do one thing. On the following day, Mu Chen packed up his things and left the Northern Spiritual Academy. He went straight towards the Northern Spiritual City's transfer spiritual array in order to rush back to the Mu territory. Mu Chen walked down a familiar street within the city. The streams of people walking around revealed how bustling and lively the city was. He did not plan on staying here for long, thus he calculated a shortcut and headed straight through it. Mu Chen's body turned around a corner and the street became slightly deserted. A light drizzle began to gently fall down from the sky. Mu Chen sped up within the drizzle and the cold rain landed on his face. It made him shiver slightly and then he suddenly stopped. His keen perception that he had honed within the spiritual road made his skin feel a sense of chill. Unknowingly, the street had become deserted. Not even a single voice was present at the scene. Mu Chen's face slowly became serious. He lifted his head and stared at the hazy sky. He could vaguely see a few lights flashing as if there were some sort of subtle fluctuation within the air. Consciousness, mesmerizing array. Mu Chen clenched his hands tightly. His pitch-black eyes became exceptionally sharp. Soon after, he raised his head and stared in front. A cold voice emitted out from him. "You actually dare to arrange a consciousness, mesmerizing array against a Northern Spiritual Academy student in the Northern Spiritual City. You really have guts." However, not a single response came out from the entire street. "Are you a mouse? When did the Liu territory people started to enjoy hiding the head and show the tail?" Mu Chen let out a cold sneer. He could not think of anyone aside from the Liu territory who would attack him before he reached the Mu territory. "You are Mu Chen?" A faint voice finally came from in front. Mu Chen lifted his head suddenly and saw a figure with an umbrella gradually appeared within his vision. "Hand the item over to me." Under the drizzle, Mu Chen's body tensed up. His eyes were firmly fixed in front. From that place, a figure that was holding an umbrella gradually appeared. It was a slightly skinny man with a feminine face. His thin lips were like blades and carried a chilling sense. Mu Chen stared at this unfamiliar feminine man, yet he felt a dangerous feeling fill his heart. His eyes narrowed as he said, "You shouldn't be a person from the Liu territory, right? Why are you finding me?" "Oh ho ho, I am indeed not a person from the Liu territory. However, someone paid a considerable price in order for me to take action." The feminine man gently smiled and softly turned his umbrella within his hand. He put his thin lips together as he said, "You can call me Ji Zong." "Ji Zong? The person within the rain? Ji Zong?" Mu Chen's eyes narrowed. This name was as prominent as Shui Tu in the Northern Spiritual Realm. Of course, this does not mean that Ji Zong was stronger than Shui Tu. His own strength should be at the spiritual rotation stage initial phase. However, he holds another identity that others are fearful of. He was a rank 1 spiritual array master. The Great Thousand World was a place where numerous planes intersect. It was so vast that even the super powerhouses, sovereigns, would consider themselves as exceptionally small beings. Therefore, the Great Thousand World was dazzling and splintered, a place where many would contend for hegemony. Spiritual array master, spiritual artifact master. Aside from the orthodox spiritual energy cultivation, these special professions were extremely dazzling. Moreover, these professions required a demanding amount of talent. Even individuals who were talented in the path of cultivation may not necessarily be able to walk smoothly on these paths. Instead, individuals who may be mediocre in the path of cultivation may show surprising talent in these paths. The heavens would close a window for you, then it must open another one for you. This phrase was suitable used in the Great Thousand World. Overall, the spiritual array master was a highly regarded profession. This is because many forces require the help of the spiritual array master. Whether it was creating a defensive battle array or an offensive battle array, or even maybe an array that is beneficial to cultivation, these would require spiritual array masters. Therefore, a high-ranked spiritual array master was considered extremely desirable in the Great Thousand World. Moreover, the spiritual array masters, who had achieved a certain degree of level in arrays, would be able to instantly arrange an array and use the might of the array to shake the heavens and earth. Ji Zong, who was in front of Mu Chen, was able to become well known in the northern spiritual realm because he was a rank 1 spiritual array master. His spiritual rotation stage initial phase's strength had no relationship to his fame. A rank 1 spiritual array master was extremely frightening if they were in an array. They would not be inferior to a spiritual rotation and stage late phase powerhouse. Although you are a Northern Spiritual Academy student, I never expected you to know my title. Ji Zong smiled and said. His voice was extremely feminine, just like a woman. However, he was genuinely a man. This contrast made others feel highly uncomfortable. If you dare attack in the Northern Spiritual City, you would have committed a taboo from the Northern Spiritual Academy. If they were to know this, you probably would not have a good ending. Mu Chen's eyes flashed while he spoke. This is why I worked hard to arrange a consciousness mesmerizing array. Nobody on the outside will know about the events that happened here. Ji Zong pointed at the empty street as he spoke. So you should just hand over the item obediently. I don't want to kill you because Mu Feng wouldn't become crazy due to it. Wouldn't it be great if we were to act friendly with each other? Mu Chen's eyes turned cold. The spiritual energy within his body quietly surged out. Although he was caught under Ji Zong's array, he was not the type of person who would easily compromise with others. You truly aren't obedient after all. Ji Zong smiled and flicked his finger. The rain within the sky suddenly began to gather, and a dense spiritual energy fluctuation emitted quietly out from it. You are quite fortunate to be able to personally experience my spiritual rain array. Ji Zong's sleeves waved and the rain within the sky suddenly poured down. It was like a torrent of blades as it enveloped Mu Chen. When Mu Chen saw such an amazing offensive, he was a little surprised. The spiritual array master was definitely powerful. This offense would be quite binding even for a spiritual rotation stage user. Condensing light, Mu Chen hurriedly retreated and the dark black spiritual energy within his BDOY surged out. It seemed to form a thin black light screen, which protected the body behind it. Bang, bang, bang. The steady stream of rain landed on the black light screen, and the light screen instantly began to tremble. Ripples quickly spread out from it, and it was obvious that it was quite unstable. After all, Mu Chen was only a spiritual movement stage late phase. It was extremely difficult for Mu Chen to resist the power of the array activated by Ji Zong. I can't let this drag on. I must break this array. Mu Chen stared at the rapidly collapsing black light, and an idea quickly flashed through his mind. With his current strength, he was not a match for Ji Zong in a direct confrontation. His only way out was to break the array. Once the array was destroyed, it was like snapping a tooth off a tiger for Ji Zong. The threat would be greatly reduced, and he would not dare to attack within the Northern Spiritual City after losing the array's cover. However, how would it be easy to break a rank 1 spiritual array master's arranged array? Mu Chen took a deep breath. He gradually calmed down during this dangerous and critical moment as his eyes shimmered. Ji Zong was only a rank 1 spiritual array master. With this level of strength, it was obvious that he could not control the array with just his heart. In other words, he would require the help of a foreign object in order to cooperate and control the array. This foreign object was the weakness of the spiritual array master. They must put it at a place where they could easily protect it. Mu Chen's eye quietly swept through Ji Zong's body. After a moment, he focused at the umbrella that Ji Zong was holding. His strength was far inferior to Ji Zong. Moreover, Ji Zong was controlling an array. The fortunate thing was that Ji Zong also knew this point, so he would underestimate him. This would soon become Mu Chen's best chance. The black light that was formed by Mu Chen's spiritual energy finally shattered completely. The rain passed through his face and left trails of blood. However, Mu Chen's eyebrows also became like swords at this moment. He stomped on the ground as the rain splashed and charged straight towards Ji Zong like a cheetah. What an aggressive young boy! Ji Zong saw this and let out a faint smile. He immediately waved his hand and the rain condensed together. It actually formed a spear of rain as it stabbed violently towards Mu Chen. Mu Chen's body lunged forward and his hand pushed out on the ground. His body jumped up and he dodged the sharp rain spear like a nimble monkey. Pretty good skill. Ji Zong complimented him as he watched. However, he began to attack more viciously. His hands swept through the air and numerous spears of rain were formed. All of them drew a tricky arc as they enveloped Mu Chen's vital areas. Mu Chen dodged agilely, but a spear still managed to sweep through his chest. It tore apart his clothes and left a trail of blood. Fresh blood immediately surged out from that location. However, he did not care about the fresh blood on his chest. He charged forward a few steps and finally approached Ji Zong. When the latter noticed this, he narrowed his eyes and said in his feminine voice, "You actually know that you should charge directly at the owner of the array. Boy, you really have a keen eyesight. However, although the idea was correct, you still overestimate your own strength and underestimated the gap between the two of us." Ji Zong faintly smiled and gripped his hand. The rain began to converge at his palms and directly formed a liquid-like rain-long sword. A powerful spiritual energy flowed out from the long sword. Mu Chen clenched his hands into fists and a black light flowed out. Two black light seals immediately emerged while carrying an overbearing spiritual energy fluctuation, and he did not hesitate as he punched fiercely towards Ji Zong. The fist howled through the air and actually tore apart the rain. The howling sounds of the winds breaking made Ji Zong shudder. It was evident that he did not expect that Mu Chen would be able to demonstrate such a fierce offensive with his spiritual movement stage late phase strength. If he wasn't a spiritual array master and was only a normal spiritual rotation stage initial phase person, it would probably be difficult for him to catch Mu Chen, and yet, that's still not enough. Ji Zong's eyes turned cold. The water sword in his hand trembled and let out a humming sound. The water sword surged out like an anaconda and heavily collided with the two black light seals. A massive and violent spiritual energy exploded out. As the spiritual energy exploded out, Mu Chen's body was forced back a bit. Even his two limitless death seals were gradually forced back. Although Ji Zong was only at the spiritual rotation stage initial phase, he was still able to compete against spiritual rotation stage late phase with the help of the spiritual array. It was apparent that Mu Chen would not be able to obtain the upper hand in a direct confrontation. Mu Chen gritted his teeth as he stared at the two limitless death seals being forced back. He then glanced at the razor-sharp sword tip. A chill directly pierced through his heart and made his skin feel numb. "Take this!" A sense of threat enveloped his heart, and Mu Chen glared fiercely. He let out a violent cry, and it resounded within his heart. At the same time, the great pagoda art began to circulate. Through testing it a few times, he already understood that there was a hidden power within his body. However, this power could only be activated when he was in a life-and-death situation. And now, it was the best opportunity. "Come out!" Mu Chen's cry resounded and echoed within his heart. Sudden lights lit up on the surface of Mu Chen's body. A faintly discernible tower of light emitted its brightness, which penetrated through Mu Chen's skin as it vaguely appeared within his body. That wraps up the content for today's episode. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe to the channel to get notifications for the next episode. For now, goodbye, and see you next time.